Buckaroos. Here I am with the wondrous Eric Rohmann here at Chautauqua, and I've cornered him to come down and sit here with me and answer a couple of questions. But the reason I invited him here is to talk about his new book. You want to hold it up?
And this is it. There's a book
brand new. It just came out a day or two ago.
Yeah, I guess today is the 22nd, and it dropped the 19th. So yes, it is.
It's a baby. It's like a little baby book.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and this is a really unusual book because it really starts out with the death of a beloved pet.
Yeah, the genre of picture books typically doesn't begin with your main character dying on page 5. But when I originally wrote the story, which of course with all my stories begins with a little picture, and then I'm finding my way and writing something and make a picture and then work my way to something that tells a story. What I started to realize is this is a story about a kid who loses something. We all lose something. It harkened back earlier to when I lost a toy that I cared about when I was a kid. My play for 6 months after that was the search for this little mouse that I had lost. But what I realized as I'm writing this story is that children, we do it somewhat as adults, but children hold on to things that they lose, be it toys or even more grandparents, friends that they knew who move away, a dog that dies, as in the case of this, and they hold on to it, and it's almost like it's a real thing, and they know that they can't get it back, but there's something about that remains with them all the time. And I thought, how can you write that story? And of course, the worst way to write it was to say, once someone lost somebody, and then like an adult would come and say, well, we'll always have grandma. But you see that all the time. So I thought, how do I write this story? But there's no way to avoid that the dog dies in the story. And then I had to find my way after that.
I think that one of the interesting thing that you did to enter the story, to almost soften the blow in a way, is with the transparency that you use actually in like the end paper.
Yeah,
well, it's not really an end paper.
When you open the book, you see Ella, the dog, as you would as a regular dog, and when you turn the page, you can see it's a translucent page, transparent page, and you see the bone dog there. I thought it was absolutely essential when I made the book that there isn't some surprise. Or the surprise wasn't so jarring. So I wanted you to see that both Ella, as she was alive, and Ella, as she is as a bone dog, are appealing characters. These are dogs that you maybe want to spend an afternoon with. And it was absolutely essential because as you turn the page, you see Ella here, and we see her here, and then we see him
without Ella.
In grief without Ella. It softens the blow. It allows us to go into the story with a sense of that bone dog is going to be there later on, and that the bone dog is a character that we are sympathetic with.
Right. I just love the way you set it up. It seems like it makes it seem like the most natural progression of all. You know what I mean?
And of course, having written yourself picture books as well as novels, that sort of stuff that seems to make sense comes about after 40, 50 things that don't make sense.
Exactly.
I had some help. I mean, I've done this before. I showed it to people who are good writers. Working with my editor, Simon Boughton, there's one point in the story where, after Ella, the words say, after Ella was gone. Well, originally, the words I'd written was after Ella had died. And the word gone is filled with a lot more longing. In fact, it even has those sounds in it, doesn't it?
It does.
And died, there's a finality to died that I didn't want to have. So later on in the story, when she returns and helps him, it was absolutely essential that she go away then. I don't want to tell kids that, there's an angel hovering over you or something like that. Perhaps there is. I don't. Who do I know about that? But I wanted to say that that remembrance, that longing, all of that is about retaining them, that thing that you had lost inside.
I want to ask you an odd question, and that is there a question that you would like for me to ask you about this book?
That seems to be the question about. I guess the question would be, did you have trepidation about putting, killing the dog on page 5?
Well, did you?
I certainly did, and the reason is because I don't think a kid in the world is gonna be bothered by it. I think they'll get to that point and they'll see there's a whole bunch of book left, and kids are naturally trusting when they read, because they want to know what happens next. They want to know why the thing happened. But there are gatekeepers, and I think that some adults that read the book, and in fact I have evidence of it because I've shown it to some adults, might be a little hesitant. Say, is there a sadness here? And I think when you read the book, I guess that's why in the middle you have the goofy part with the skeletons, is because in a way there's a tragedy, and then there's this, I hope, amusing part that opens you up emotionally and allows that last part, what Candy Fleming would refer to as the aha moment, at the end to find its way.
To me, it's a kind of a jubilation moment, actually.
Yeah,
I'm
glad you say that.
I love the way it turns. I think you set it up as it is a book about loss initially, but I think the bigger thing that it's about is promises, is the idea that a lot of things don't end, that, yes.
Let me be dead honest with you.
Okay.
I'm so close to it, I'm not sure exactly totally what it is about. You know what I mean by that?
Absolutely.
You do a book and then you, at least with a picture book, you release it, it comes out a year later.
Right.
You don't really see it in this form. And because I'm so familiar with it, when I look at particular pages, I think the music I was listening to that day, or I had a sinus infection or something, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it takes a couple of years to really sort of look at it without all that and see it how it is. So I've got to be honest with you, oftentimes I rely on my good eyes and good ears, people I care about who know picture books and understand picture books and read picture books. And of that group, many of them, most of them are like younger than 7. So I haven't yet shown it to that group yet, a small number of those. So in some ways I don't understand it yet, and that's both daunting because you think if you're going to work on something for a year, maybe you should know what you're doing. But then there's that other part that let it go, and there seems to be sort of a natural progression. You begin telling the story and it seems to go in a particular way. That alchemy where it goes from the lead of words and colors and lines and becomes the gold of the finished story.
Yeah. Wow. Would you humor me and show the page towards the end with the dogs running? I love that page. It's so full of life.
I always make when I make a book, it always begins with a lot of words. And that's because I'm not a great picture book writer. A great picture book writer knows what to leave out. They know that there's an artist who's going to come in and he or she is going to be visual. I don't start out that way. So I start off with a bunch of words, and then I start making pictures. And eventually in my books, I get pages that have no words at all.
I think that page is like the reward, that we get for going through the book. It feels that way to me. It's full of energy, and it's...
I was looking at an old sketchbook of mine where I was writing. I was sitting in Central Park, and I was amazed by the dogs running in the sheep meadow. And there's something so purely beautiful about, and you know that because you probably feel the same about horses, that there's something absolutely perfect about a horse running or a dog running, because it has all those things. It has the power and the joy and the beauty. And so when I get to the point where we have these dogs, that's what I wanted to get across. That's why you sort of see them flowing through the through the graveyard. It's almost like a wave of dogs.
It is.
Is what I was thinking about. So and it was a hard picture to make because a lot of times you draw dogs running and they don't look that smooth moving through the page. And it was absolutely necessary, especially after
Right.
a page where you have these sort of knock-kneed
Right.
skeletons rambling along. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's a wonderful book,
Thanks.
Eric. Congratulations.
Like I said, we'll see because, like I said, it's brand new, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it yet either. So.
It seems to me like you took a huge risk with it.
It didn't seem like it at the time because you write a story and it seems to make sense to you. But I took the risk, I guess, with it. I showed it to people who are writers, and every one of them said to me, and illustrators as well, said, make the book. Don't worry about that. We do worry about it though because we want kids to read it. We want it to be around for a while.
Exactly.
So we'll see. Time will tell. The thing is you can only make the book you make.
Exactly.
And
would that be the tip that you would leave for young
Yeah,
writers or young artists?
I would say that's true. I mean, when I go to art schools, when they look at my books, they see that there are a number of different techniques that I use. I'll explain to them the reason you do it is because each story deserves a picture that rhymes with the way the story is told. The Cat in the Hat is not as interesting if it's illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg around the Jumanji time. It's just kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So there's a way to tell a story, take words. The thing is, as I was told early on, establish a style and stick with it, and I didn't do that.
That has not been you.
No, and I would say if it's in you to tell different kinds of stories, you're going to have to make different kinds of pictures. Maurice Sendak has talked about this as well. He does line work, and then he does work with watercolor, and then he does other types of work. And my advice would be, if you have multiple stories, different stories to tell, you have different pictures to make for those stories too.
All right.
Great.
Eric, thank you.
Well, thank you. It was thrilling to sit here in your basement, Kathi,
In
the 1970s and talk to you.
We've got to quit meeting like this.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Congratulations on your wonderful new book.
Thank you.
All right. Adios.